The night the world stopped to watch. The lights were blinding, the cameras were rolling, and the NBA world held its breath. On one side stood Anthony Davis, the prototype big man, a 7-footer with the smoothness of a guard and the wingspan of a giant. On the other was Giannis Antetokounmpo, a once-unknown kid from Athens who had built himself into the most feared force in basketball. Two titans, one court, one night. This wasn't just another regular season game. This was a collision of power, skill, and reputation. Davis had long been called the future, the face of a new generation of big men. Giannis was still writing his story, carving his legacy with each furious drive to the rim. But when they met under the bright lights, the basketball world saw something it wasn't ready for. The night began with anticipation, but it ended with domination. And Anthony Davis, once seen as untouchable, looked human. Giannis didn't just play against him, he made him look like a bench player. Two paths, one collision. Anthony Davis grew up in Chicago, a basketball city known for producing legends. He was a prodigy from the moment he stepped onto the hardwood. At Kentucky, he became a national champion, an unstoppable shot blocker, a future #1, first overall pick. The NBA world crowned him before he even signed his first contract. He had the tools, the skill, and the frame to dominate. The path seemed destined for greatness, but Giannis's journey couldn't have been more different. Born in Athens to Nigerian immigrants, Giannis sold trinkets on the streets to help his family survive. He wasn't considered a prodigy. He wasn't handed anything. Scouts doubted him, calling him too skinny, too raw, too unknown. When he entered the 2013 draft, many wondered if he would even last in the league. Yet from those humble beginnings, Giannis carried a fire that would define him. Two paths, one carved by expectation, the other built by desperation, and as fate would have it, they were destined to collide. The rise of Anthony Davis, the chosen one. When Davis entered the league in 2012, he was everything the NBA thought it wanted. Long, athletic, skilled. He could block shots at one end and stretch the floor at the other. They called him the Brow, a symbol of his unique identity. New Orleans handed him the keys and the media called him the future face of the NBA. By his mid-20s, Davis had stacked all-star appearances, defensive dominance, and their reputation as the league's most complete big man. Analysts said he was what Kevin Garnett could have been without the years of struggle. Fans believed he was the modern big every franchise dreamed of. His story was polished, his path clean. Yet greatness isn't only about talent. Sometimes it takes a rival to expose the cracks. The rise of Giannis, the unstoppable force Giannis, entered the NBA as a teenager who barely spoke English. His rookie year, he looked like a kid lost in a world of giants. But behind the scenes, he was obsessed. He lived in the gym, transformed his body year after year, added muscle, explosiveness, and skill. By the time his fourth season came, Giannis wasn't just another project, he was a force of nature. He attacked the rim like it owed him money, played defense with the intensity of a man who refused to go back to poverty, and grew into the kind of player no one could prepare for. His rise wasn't smooth, it was violent, a storm that swept across the league. MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year, highlight reels that made fans gasp. Giannis wasn't given his crown, he ripped it from the league's hands. And when his path crossed with Anthony Davis, the difference in mentality became impossible to ignore. The clash, the game that changed the narrative. It was billed as a showdown, Giannis and the Bucks against Anthony Davis and the Lakers. The league called it a preview of the finals. The world called it a battle for the throne. Davis had LeBron James beside him. Giannis carried the weight of Milwaukee on his back. From the opening tip, the energy was electric. Davis, smooth and polished, tried to impose his will. But Giannis came like a storm. He drove straight into Davis's chest, dunked over him, blocked him at the rim, and celebrated with the roar of a warrior who knew the crowd was watching. Possession after possession, Giannis bullied his way to the rim, hitting threes, swatting shots, flexing with a rage that said, "This is my league now." Davis, usually the hunter, became the hunted. He looked hesitant, passive, as Giannis imposed his will. Every highlight was a dagger, every dunk a statement. By the final buzzer, the box score didn't just show numbers, it told a story. Giannis had dominated Anthony Davis so completely that fans and analysts walked away with a different perspective. The night had begun as a battle, but it ended as a coronation. Giannis Antetokounmpo wasn't just another star. He was the destroyer of Anthony Davis' claim to the throne. Did AD get exposed? The basketball world erupted. Social media lit up with debates. Was Anthony Davis still the best big man in the NBA? Or had Giannis stolen his crown? ESPN panels, podcasts, and talk shows replayed the highlights again and again. Fans asked the uncomfortable question, did AD look like a role player next to Giannis? The whispers grew into shouts. For years, Davis had been called the future, but in one night, Giannis had made him look ordinary. The league thrives on narratives, and the narrative had shifted. Giannis was no longer the hungry challenger. He was the face of dominance, skill versus will. This wasn't just about one game. It was about two philosophies colliding. Anthony Davis represented skill, polish, and the crown of expectation. Giannis embodied will, relentlessness, and a crown forged in pain. And when they met, the contrast was clear. Giannis's motor never stopped. Every possession a war. Davis often drifted, his body language quiet, his effort questioned. Head-to-head numbers told the story. Giannis averaged more points, more rebounds, more energy. Davis still had the finesse, the jump shot, the highlight blocks, but against Giannis, it wasn't enough. Fans began to wonder, what matters more in greatness, natural talent or relentless willpower? Why Giannis outworked everyone? Giannis's dominance wasn't magic. It was built in the dark. Teammates told stories of 4 a.m. workouts, of a man who never stopped. He ate, slept, and breathed basketball. He added moves every offseason, studied film until his eyes burned, and played with a desperation that reminded everyone of where he came from. Anthony Davis, meanwhile, was plagued by injuries, by questions about his consistency and whether he had the hunger to dominate every night. The difference became visible. Giannis never coasted, Davis sometimes did, and that gap widened into a canyon the night they met on the court. Injuries, fame, and criticism. Both men paid their price. Davis struggled with injuries, his body betraying him at crucial moments. Critics said he couldn't carry a team on his own. Giannis faced his own heartbreaks, playoff exits, free throw struggles, media doubt. But where one bent, the other refused to break. Giannis turned criticism into fuel, while Davis's career often felt like a story of what if. Fame brought pressure, expectations grew heavier, but the difference was in the response. Giannis embraced the weight. Davis often looked crushed by it. Who really changed the game? Years later, the question still lingers. Giannis became a champion, a Finals MVP, a 2-time league MVP, and a Defensive Player of the Year. He carried Milwaukee to glory, loyal to the city that believed in him. Davis won his championship too, but alongside LeBron James, forever tied to another man's legacy. Who changed the game more? Giannis redefined what it meant to be a modern, big, unstoppable, versatile, and loyal. Davis showed flashes of brilliance, but never seized the throne in the way many predicted. And when history looks back, it may remember one night in particular when Giannis took the crown for himself. What the cameras don't show behind the glory were sacrifices the world rarely saw. Giannis carried the weight of his family, sending money back home, remembering the nights he slept in tiny apartments with nothing to eat. His rise was about more than basketball. It was about survival. Davis faced his own choices, leaving New Orleans in pursuit of a title, knowing the backlash would come. He won, but at the cost of independence, forever seen as LeBron's co-star. Both men paid a price, but one seemed willing to sacrifice everything for greatness, while the other seemed content with just enough. The question that still lingers. The night Giannis made Anthony Davis look like a bench player was more than a game. It was a statement, a moment when the league's balance of power shifted. Was this the night Giannis proved he was untouchable? Or was it the night Anthony Davis lost the crown he never truly held? In the end, the rivalry between talent and willpower may never have a final answer. But one thing is certain, on that night under those lights, Giannis Antetokounmpo didn't just win a game, he redefined greatness.